So, for the past few videos on this channel, we've been exploring the American Civil War and Civil War sites, one of my favorite parts of history. But in this video, we're going to downshift and we're going to go back to the year 1812 and 1813 and explore one of America's almost forgotten historic sites and conflicts. We're in South Alabama today and we're at a very cool location, and let's check out Fort Mims. All right, so in order to understand what is going on here at a place called Fort Mims, Alabama, we have to dive back into the War of 1812. Of course, you've got that war going on, but there was another thing that happened in 1813 that is almost forgotten about, and it concerned the Creek or Muskogee Native American tribe here in Alabama. At that time, there was a civil war going on between the tribe. You had two factions split in the tribe. You have the Upper Creeks or Red Sticks, the Lower Creeks or White Sticks. And the Red Sticks, well, they were tired of the European way of life being pressed on them. They were tired of their lands getting taken. And the Lower Creeks or the White Sticks, you know, they wanted peace. They didn't want war. They knew what the outcome of war was, so they were just kind of going along with what was going on and adapting. Well, the Upper Creeks didn't like this, and the Civil War broke out between the tribe. In July of 1813, a war party of Red Sticks went to Pensacola, Florida, which was a Spanish-held territory at the time, the seat of the Spanish government, and they procured guns, ammunition, gunpowder. They got birdshot, flour, corn, provisions, and they started making their way back into Alabama when they were hit. As word got to a Mississippi militia unit led by Colonel James Collier and Major Daniel Beasley, they hit them at a place called Burnt Corn Creek. And they hit them as they stopped for their midday meal, and they were able to drive that back to Red Sticks, and then the Red Sticks counterattack. Well, fast forward, that just infuriated the situation. That made the situation a lot more worse. Now, America had their toes dipped into the middle of the Civil War between the Creek people. So what the Red Sticks did in retaliation for that action at Burnt Corn Creek was, in August of 1813, they decided to hit this place, Fort Mims, Alabama. So let's show you around and let's kind of explore the history of this a little bit. This was built around the home of a man by the name of Samuel Mims. Samuel Mims had a plantation here, and at the time, this area along the Tensas River, about 30 miles or 35 miles north of Mobile, was part of the Mississippi Territory. Samuel Mims was a pretty prominent fellow in the area. He had a plantation here, and with everything going on, well, people started to panic. And they started throwing up these wooden stockades around homes in different areas and taking refuge here. Well, here, a stockade was built around his home in August of 1813. And this is only a couple of acres. This is a really small area, but 500 people took refuge here. These people were made up by the European settlers that were in the area, and also by a lot of the White Sticks, the Lower Creeks, and mixed Blake Creeks, who were both Creek and European American. So this is once the site, approximate site of the Samuel Mims home in the middle of the stockade. And you can kind of see they have some literature here, and they have an interpretation of what the home may have looked like. And also they have some things, some photos of some things that were found here during archaeological excavations. But there was a ferry here. The river is about a mile past these wood lines you see right behind here. And his home was right here. So this wooden palisade was put up around his home, and they constructed a blockhouse. Now, he had several outbuildings here as well. Had a kitchen and some different other buildings here. And this was all now the center of life for about 500 people. And right behind the Samuel Mims home was, of course, the kitchen. The kitchen a lot of times was separated from a home, and this is a kind of representation here of what it could have looked like and some different things that have been found in the area. So they had smoke houses here and different things here in the middle of the stockade. They basically had everything that they needed in this little bitty area. Well, one of the things they really needed was better defensive positions. So you started construction of something called a blockhouse, which you see here. Now, if you notice, this blockhouse has little holes cut out into the side of it. You can make them out here. Let's get a closer look. So here you go. Here's some little holes known as loopholes. And they're on the bottom and also on the top up there. And if we open this up, we can actually go inside. Make sure nothing's going to get us. But you can see the inside of this blockhouse. Well, it is not comfortable. Somebody's been partying. But anyway, don't leave your trash in. Okay, whatever. But this is the inside of the blockhouse. And you can see the loopholes here. And you have a ladder that would go up to the upper floor. So you have men down here firing, men up there firing. Now, this thing at the time of the battle was not completed totally, but it was usable. Now, in addition to that blockhouse, what you also had was loopholes along the fort walls here. But you notice something about these. They're not very high up, which posed a problem. On August the 29th, 1813, Upper Red Stick warriors came and did a reconnaissance of this fortification and noticed this. So here's a better look at a hand-drawn map that was developed shortly after the battle of what Fort Mims actually may have looked like on the inside. We have, of course, militia camps here. This is your east gate, then your west gate, this was not finished at the time, but this gate was closed. And then you had several outbuildings outside of the fortification, like stables, things like that are not on this map. But you had a lot of buildings inside of the fortification like this, different cabins, the Samuel Mims home, the kitchen, and then you had your south wall, you had your north wall, your east and west wall, and then militia camped on the inside. August the 29th, what happened in 1813 was that you had two African-American boys who were slaves here at the fortification that went out and they encountered and saw Native American Red Stick warriors. They saw them all painted up. They come back here, told the fort's commander, hey, we saw Native Americans painted in war paint. Well, he dismissed them, and he actually flogged one of the boys for creating a false claim and raising a false alarm. Well, he didn't heed what he had told him. On August the 30th, 1813, that would come out to bite him in the booty, as when the dinner bell rang here at Fort Mims, well, they began to hear war cries, and Native Americans began to storm this east gate, which was left wide open. It had been open so long that down at the bottom of the gate, sand had built up to prevent it from closing. And when one of the officers went to close that gate, he was immediately struck down by the Red Stick warriors. And then gunfire and arrows began to erupt inside of this fort from the outside loopholes as the Native Americans attacked the fortification. Well, on noontime, as war cries began to cry out from these fort walls, the people inside here began to panic. They were running everywhere. Women, children, men, and blood creeks were going everywhere, trying to take cover, trying to figure out what was going on and race to their arms. So their lunch was, we could say, interrupted in the most grotesque manner. And this battle lasted for about an hour, okay? You had women, children, men laying dead everywhere after an hour of battle, and the Creeks the Red Stick Warriors ended up pulling back. They didn't last long. About an hour later, they attacked again at 3 p.m. because they said, we have to get the guy who attacked us at Burnt Corn Creek. He has to die, and he's not dead yet. So they re-attacked the fortification, and then it's safe to say that all you know what broke loose here, as men, women, children fell everywhere. Only around 36 survivors were able to cut their way out of this back fort wall and escape to safety. So in this direction, where there's not a rebuilt piece of the stockade, was the south wall. This is probably one of the best defensive positions that the men had at any time during the point of this battle. But it too ended up falling, and people began to take refuge in homes, the outbuildings that was inside of this fortification, and then they were burnt to the ground with the people still inside. The last point of defense and survival for this people were at a place called the Bastion, right in this general vicinity. So in this location is what we had known as the Bastion and the Loom House. And this is the final point of refuge in this area for the people here who were inside of the fort. Local Tennessee militia, who were led by a man by the name of Captain Ditson Bailey, held out here until the end of the battle. Many of the Creek warriors were running around here. They ended up setting this building on fire. The building burnt down with some people inside, but Ditson Bailey and some others managed, mostly men, managed to cut a hole in the side of this south wall with the assistance by one of the surgeons who were here, and they escaped into safety. A lot of them ran through the woods, not knowing where they were going, just trying to get away from here, and a lot of them made their way down to the river. But most of the other women and children were killed right in this area, along with a lot of their own Creek people. And a lot of these people who they were slaughtering in this fortification were direct relationships, direct kin to the Red Stick Warriors who were killing them. So what you had here was family killing family, literally. I mean, like brothers, sisters, cousins, uncles, aunts, that kind of deal. Very close. This was a civil war among the Creek people who America just happened to get wrapped up in. And what occurred after this battle was about a month at least before anyone was able to really make it here and bury the bodies. So bodies lay where they fell inside of this fortification for weeks and weeks in the hot August southern sun. Can you imagine the sight that those men and women saw when they found this fortification burnt to the ground and the bodies of so many people laying here? So what you had here after the Battle of Fort Mims was a conflict known as the Creek Indian Wars that erupted between America and the Red Stick Warriors, who rose the Red Stick Club of War. And for the first time in years, scalps, there's like 250 scalps that were estimated to be taken here at Fort Mims. And this was a civil war among the Creek people. And then it turned into a war with the United States. And it was one of the factors that led directly to the 1830s removal of the Native Americans to Oklahoma. So this is one of the places that contributed a lot to American history that is often forgotten about. And a sad chapter in the Muskogee Creek legacy because it was a civil war among their own tribe. And it's something a lot of people forget about. So pretty cool. Now, before we get out of here, I did want to show you this. This is the approximate location of the original well. And in the 1960s, there was an archaeological excavation that took place here. And I just thought this was interesting. They have some pictures of some of the artifacts. This is pieces of the well and the pulley system for the well. And I think that's the bucket, the original bucket. But it was about 30 foot deep is what I'm gathering from the literature here. And this applied to drinking water, cooking water, and bathing water for the fortification. Pretty neat that there's a reconstructed portion of that well here now. So these are some more artifacts that I found really interesting. We're right here in front of the blockhouse. And these are artifacts that would have been in this area. You see a piece of a gun barrel here, some cannonballs, and different pieces of a musket here. So pretty cool to see some of the artifacts and photos that actually come from the spot where we're standing. That's a little bit here from Fort Mims. There's a lot more history. I could go in depth with this place, but there just isn't time. But I do urge you to check out this place for yourself. It is very well upkept by the Alabama Historical Commission and the Fort Mims Restoration Association in Baldwin County, Alabama. It is located in Tensall, Alabama. You can look it up. It is off the beaten path, but it's not that hard to find. And you'll be glad you come here. Really will. It's a beautiful place to have a picnic and explore some history for today. So, yeah, don't forget to visit Project Past here on YouTube, the History Underground, Vlogging Through History, and the American Battlefield Trust. Some of my favorite channels to check out. You will not be sorry. And until next time, well, keep preserving history. Stay safe. On to the next place. Thank you for watching, and if you like what you saw here, don't forget to subscribe so you get all of our content, and also hit the bell notification so you get notified every time we upload.